Hello students, today we're going to start chapter 7, I think it is, and chapter 7 is all about geometry. And this year we're going to focus on volume of cylinders, cones, and spheres, and then we're going to talk about surface area next week. But we're going to start with volume. And we're going to actually start with volume of a cylinder. So just to review, I know you know this already, but a cylinder is a rectangle that is connected by two circles. And we think of cylinders as something like this oatmeal container, or maybe a soda can or a soup can, anything that has a circle on each end that's connected by a rectangle. And you think, that doesn't look like a rectangle. But when we unfold these later on, you're going to see that it actually is a rectangle. But we're not really worried about that right now. We're worried about volume. Volume is the amount of space inside the cylinder. Okay? How much can this cylinder hold? How much can I fit in the space inside this cylinder? That's the volume. So we're going to look at how I would find the volume of a cylinder. Now, the official formula for volume of a cylinder is V for volume equals capital B times H. And you probably remember from years past that this capital B can be very, very tricky. Because the capital B stands for, this is area of the base. So I've got to figure out, first of all, what shape the base is, and then I got to know how to find the area of it. And unfortunately, this is not going to be on your formula chart that you have this year. You've got to know this definition of area for all of these because they're not going to give it to you. So we're going to talk about volume of the cylinder as the capital B, which is the area of the base, times the height of the cylinder. Now, we know from looking at this cylinder that the base is a circle. Okay? So in this case, to find the area of a circle, that formula is pi r squared. So we could rewrite this volume formula as V equals pi r squared h for a cylinder. This only works for the cylinder. Okay? Now pi is one of those crazy mathematical numbers that we use when we deal with circles. And in the past, you might have rounded it to 3, or you might have learned it as 3.14. It's one of those non-repeating decimals, so it goes on forever. But this year, since we're using calculators, there's a key on the calculator that is pi, and that's the key we're going to use. We're not going to use 3.14. We're not going to round it to 3. We're always going to use the pi key on the calculator, and we're going to let the calculator figure out all those things for us. Okay? So we're going to start with this cylinder. Okay? If you want to draw the cylinder, we can do that. I'm not an artist at all, but I can kind of draw a cylinder like that. And we'll say that this is oatmeal. Okay? And the radius of this oatmeal can is approximately 3 inches. Okay? And the height of this oatmeal can is approximately 9.5 inches. So we need to figure out then what the volume is. What is the volume? How much can this oatmeal container hold? So let's plug this into our formula. So we're trying to find the volume. Pi, we're just going to leave as pi. R is the radius, which is 3. So that's times 3 squared times h, which is 9.5. And once I have this written down, calculator takes over. Okay? So I just need to write this down. I need to know what R is and what h is, and then I'm going to use my calculator to calculate. So I'm going to type it in the calculator, and I know you can't see the calculator face, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm going to take pi, and to find the pi key, I'll show it to you right here. If you're using one of these calculators, it is the key that's right above this power of key. You see the little pi shape, so you do second, and then this power of key, and that gives you pi. So that's pi times 3 squared, and remember squared is the x squared key, times 9.5, and we just hit enter. So I'm going to show you on the camera. Make sure you can see that. Pi times 3 squared times 9.5. And now I'm going to hit enter, and that's the answer I get. And you're thinking, that's way too many numbers after the decimal. You're exactly right. When we deal with volume, we're going to always round our answers to the nearest hundredth. So we get V equals 268.6061719. And when we round to the nearest hundredth, we're going to round to the second place after the decimal. That first 6 is tenths, and this is the hundredths. So I look at that 0. What is this 6 telling me to do to the 0? You're right, it's telling me to raise it or round it up. So my final answer is 268.61 inches cubed. Now, what's that whole inches cubed thing stand for? When we talk about inches cubed, we're talking about if I took a cube that was 1 inch on each side and stuck it into this oatmeal container, I could fit 268.61 of them in there. Now we have to shave some sides and smush them in and all that kind of stuff, but that's exactly how many would fit inside this oatmeal container. Now the second problem I'm going to show you is a problem that usually tries to trick you. Because I drew this nice little cylinder, don't laugh at my art. I drew this nice little cylinder, and this cylinder has a diameter of 9 inches. Now you know the diameter goes all the way across from one side to the other of a circle. So I could just show it to you like this. If I have the diameter, it's from one edge to the other, and it passes through the center. That's the diameter. So it's telling me that the diameter is 9, and my height of the cylinder is 5 inches. So we're going to write down our formula. V equals capital BH. And we know that it's a cylinder, so B is pi r squared. So V equals pi r squared h. Now we have to figure out what r is. And you'll remember that r stands for radius. And if we're looking at radius, radius is the distance from the center to the outside edge. So if I know the diameter, how do I find the radius? Well, that's another thing that you have to know, because they're not going to have it for you anywhere. You've got to know that D equals 2 times R. Okay? So I could also say that R equals 1/2 of D. So if I know D is the diameter of 9 and I need to find the radius, then I can just divide this by 2. And 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. So V equals pi 4.5 squared times the height, which is 5. And now that I have this written down, the calculator takes over. So we're just going to type that into the calculator. Pi, which is second to the power of sign, times 4.5, and then the squared key, times 5. And it's going to look just like that on your calculator. Pi times 4.5 squared times 5, and then I hit enter, and I get 318.08625562. Well, I've got to round to the nearest hundredth, so the number in my hundredths place is 8, and the number after it is a 6. The 6 tells me to raise the 8, so my final answer is going to be 318.09. So V equals 318.09 inches cubed. And because we're talking about volume, that's length, width, and height. That's why we have the third power or the cubed sign there. Okay? Just to reiterate, you've got to be able to find the radius if you're given a diameter, and you have to remember that the area of a circle is pi r squared. So your practice problems for this evening are to find the volume of these two cylinders. Cylinder 1 has a radius of 2 inches and a height of 6.25 inches. Cylinder 2 has a height of 2 inches and a radius of 6.25 inches. I wonder if they have the same volume, since they have the same dimensions, just switched around. You'll find that out. Please find the volume. Again, write down the formula, plug in your numbers, and then use the calculator. But I've got to see that step where you plugged in the numbers to the formula. Then let your calculator do the work and round to the nearest hundredth. Take a picture of those two problems and submit it in Edmodo using the turn in button.